Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
I love a good bridge. There's just something so interesting about bridges that take you from one side of a hill or over a river over to the other. I just think they're really fascinating. This is God on the Go. I'm Julie Lyles Carr, and we're part of the Purposely Podcast Network. God on the Go is to help you make the minutes matter. And we are going to be launching into a new series, a little short series, about some people who I particularly find really interesting. I'm one of those people that I like knowing the backstory. You know what I mean? Like all the details, the little funny things that maybe you haven't heard about before, the people who actually help make a lot of things happen, who maybe never got to be in the spotlight. They were behind the scenes making things happen. Bridges are a little bit like that to me. We don't often think about what it means to be able to get from one side of a canyon to another, or to be able to get across a particular river without a bridge. And yet that bridge helps us connect. It helps make it possible for us to get from one side to the other. I live in Austin, Texas, and there's a really iconic bridge here. Iconic means that it's a bridge that you often see on photographs or on posters or something like that. It's a reddish orange color, and it's got this huge arc to it. It's called the Pennybacker Bridge, and it was designed and then named after the guy who designed it because it was going to connect one part of the city to another. There's a river that runs between these two cliffs. And so to get from one part of Austin to another part of Austin, you definitely need that Pennybacker Bridge in order to be able to cross it. Guess how many bridges there are in the United States? This number completely blew me away. Guess how many bridges there are in the United States? Over 600,000. I would have never thought there were that many bridges in the United States, but there are. There are people in our lives who act as bridges. What do I mean by that? Well, there are people who help us connect to each other. There are people who help us understand. There are people who take us from one thing that we've known and help us connect it to the next thing we're going to know. There's someone in the Bible who I think about as a bridge. I wrote about him in my Bible study called Footnotes, and his name is Tychicus. We read about Tychicus in Ephesians 6:21. It says, Tychicus, the dear brother and faithful servant in the Lord, will tell you everything so that you also may know how I am and what I am doing. That's the Apostle Paul who was writing about his friend Tychicus, who often would go ahead of Paul. You know, Paul was a guy who traveled all over the place telling people about Jesus. Tychicus often went first. He went ahead of Paul and let people know that Paul was going to be coming, told them what was going on with Christians across the area, got them ready, connected them to Paul before Paul even arrived, so that when Paul arrived, people were so excited to see him. They were ready to learn more. Tychicus was a bridge. He helped bridge the church, those people who were following Jesus when the church was still so new, so young. They didn't have telephones. They didn't have ways to connect with each other. Tychicus was the guy who would help them connect. He was the bridge. You know, we often like to celebrate the people who get noticed, right? I mean, Paul was really well known throughout the area in the early church because of all the work he was doing. But when it comes to people that we sometimes don't even realize are in the Bible, we don't even remember that their names are there, those people are so important too. A lot of us want to get attention. I get that. I understand that. But when we can be a bridge, when we can be the person who helps connect some things for people, whether we ever get the attention or not, that's a really powerful thing. In the course of history, there are so many people who we don't know their names anymore. We don't really know a lot about their lives. But if they had not been willing to connect certain people, connect the dots, connect the details, well, there are a lot of things that we might not know today because of that. Being willing to be a person who helps others get the help they need, who helps others get the details they need, who goes ahead and helps get things ready, that is a really powerful thing to be. Even today, in our world where we tend to notice people who are in the spotlight, being a bridge is a really important job. If you text the word GO, that's GO, to the number 89419, we'll send you discussion questions about this topic, the memory verse, all kinds of good stuff. A big thanks to our sponsor, George Fox University. At George Fox University, each student will be known personally, academically, and spiritually. I'll see you next time.